Okay. We're holding on the bottom of 15b. Right? We thank Hashem that you're behind Torah every day. And it's supposed to be learning. We should have the basic English immediately. Learning Luli Nishma, Savagol the Basbar, Binyamin, and the son of Ben Betzian. And for Shlema, for Abdullah Ben Sarah, Gedalia Getzel Eliezer Ben Tzipara. Okay, so we're talking about the story of Eiv. We had a whole bunch of opinions when Eiv lived and who he was. Now we say that the Satan tells Hashem that there's no one greater than Avram Avinu. Hashem says, "Well, what about Eiv?" He said, "Well, you try him and you see." So, see if he complains, if he rejects you after you make him suffer. So now, it was on that day that Eiv's sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in the house of their brother, the firstborn. And a messenger comes to Eiv, and he says, the cattle were plowing, etc. What is the meaning of the cattle were plowing and the donkeys were pasturing along with them? Rabbi Yochanan says that Eiv had a taste of the world to come, because the plowing, which is done by the planting, and the pasturing, which is done after it grows. So as the cattle were plowing, it was already growing on the same day, and at the same time it was already growing, ready to put it in the ground. It started to sprout, and the donkeys were able to pasture. We're on top of 16 now. Yeah, very good. Good morning. While this messenger is talking, Zeba, another one comes. Yomer Eish Elikim Begaimer. Says a fire came and burnt up the sheep. And what else happened? And the servants and the sheep and the servants. While he's talking, Zeba, another messenger comes. Rushim, that the Chaldeans, they made 3 leaders, and they captured the animals. They took them, and what else it says? It says they killed the servants by the sword. While he's talking, another messenger comes. He says, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their brother's house, the firstborn. The big wind comes from over the desert, but and it hit the 4 corners of the house, and it fell over the children, over the lads, and they all died. So Eiv got up, he tore his clothing. What does Vayagas mean? He plucked his hair.
Only I escape is the person that is telling him.
Yeah, only the story. The messenger. Whoever the messengers. Eiv says, I came out naked when I was born, and and I'm going to return naked. Hashem nasan, Hashem lakach. Hashem has given, Hashem has taken. That's what we say by the funerals. Hashem nasan, Hashem lakach. Yishem Hashem avayrach. The name of Hashem should be blessed. Eiv did not sin, and he did not reject Hashem's decision. Was that day that the angels came to come around to Hashem to discuss. Hashem says to the Satan, Amy said, Tavi, where are you coming from? The Satan tells Hashem, Masut Ba'aretz, I was floating around the earth. And Rabbeinu Shlalem, he says to Hashem, Master of the world, Shatzi b'chol olam, I floated around the whole world. And v'lei matzasi kavd chavram, no one is like Avram. Shamart Eloi, that you said to him, exactly what we learned before. That you said to him that come and walk the land of Israel, the length and the width, because I'm going to give you the land. And when it was time to bury Sarah, we couldn't find any place to bury her. And he did not question your actions. Turn another page. Oh no, either turn it one more page or turn one page back. We're in 16a. 16a. Yeah. 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 So Vayemer Hashem ala Satan, Hashem says to the Satan, Hasamta libcha alav the Yid. What about Eve? Have you placed your heart to contemplate what about Eve? There's no one like him. And he is still sincere. And you were the Satan, he's telling the Satan, that you were trying to convince me that I should destroy him. And for nothing. Because you see, he didn't complain after all the things that you did bad to him. Rabbi Yochanan says, if this was not written in a verse, we would never be able to write this. God is describing himself like someone that could be convinced, and he gets convinced. This is Hashem. He's persuaded that you could persuade Hashem one way or another. But Masnisa Tana and the Brisa was taught that the Satan goes down and he makes people sin. Then he goes up and he makes Hashem angry about it. He gets permission to do it, and then he gets permission to take their life. Vayan hasatan as Hashem. So the Satan responds. Vayomer, he says, or ba'ad or, skin for skin. And everything that a person has, he'll give for his own life. You told me, the Satan tells Hashem, that I can do whatever I want to Eve. The only thing is I can't touch him. So the reason why Eve didn't reject you, Hashem, is because it was only his family and his belongings, but it wasn't Eve himself. Eve himself is not suffering. So shlachna yadcha v'gal atzmei vel b'sarai imloi al panecha yavarcheka. Let's see if we touch him, if we in his flesh, see if we make him suffer, see if he's gonna curse Hashem. Okay, Hashem agrees. He says you can do what you want to him, but just don't kill him. Satan leaves from Hashem, and he hits Iev with swords from his feet to his head, etc. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak says, the Satan had a harder time here than Eve. Why? This is an example for this. There's a servant that the master tells him, break the barrel, but don't lose any of the wine. So that's not easy. So the Satan was gonna make Eve suffer, but he wasn't able to kill him. So that's not so simple. Amar Ishlakish says, who has Satan? Who Yetzirah Malchamavas? The Satan is the Yetzirah, is the angel of death. Who's Satan? Satan Diksiv Yatsa Satan Mes Hashem. That's clearly it says that the Satan went from in the presence of Hashem. Who Yetzirah? How do we know that the Satan is the Yetzirah? Ksiv Hasam over there it says Rak Kalayim, that the inclination of man is bad all day. That's what it says in the before the flood. Ksiv Hacha, and over here it says Rakas Nafshi Shemar, uses that word Rak. Araki love al tishlach yadcha. It's whichever verse it's being quoted here, but either one. It's just only his body you should guard, which means that it's using that same word that he used for the Yetzer Hara. This is the angel of death, because it says achas nafshi shmur, that you should guard his soul. Alma b'didei kaima. That meant that it was up to him if he dies or not. That means he's the angel of death. Amar Reb Levi says, Satanu Penina l'shem shamayim neskavno. That's the Satan and Penina. Penina is the second wife of Elkanah. Elkanah had two wives, Hannah and Penina. Penina had children and Hannah didn't. So the Gemara here is saying, Reb Levi is saying, is that both the Satan and Penina, even though what they did was not nice, but they had good intentions. Satan, what was the good intentions of the Satan? Given the Chazil HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not daiti Basra Daf, the Satan saw that Hashem was putting all his mind about how great Eve was. He's going to forget about the Jewish people. So he's telling Hashem that no, Eve is not so great. So Avram, that's really great. That way Hashem will remember his love for the Jewish people. This maybe is following the opinion that Eve was not Jewish. Right, which there was one. There was an opinion like that. The opinion that said that he was during the days of Yaakov. Right. Penina, where do we see that Penina had good intentions? That her the second wife is called the Tzara. Second wife made her angry, because of to make her angry, which means to make her suffer. But what the idea over there was that Penina wanted her to daven harder. So Penina would say, like the Medrash over there says, she would say, "Have you bought clothing for your children yet?" To rub it in that she was childless. Darsha Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Papunya. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov taught in this place called Papunya. Asa Satan Nashke Lakari. The Satan was so pleased that someone gave a good description about him. So he came and kissed Reb Levi's feet. That Reb Levi said that the Satan had good intentions. So, okay. Well, usually no one speaks nicely about the Satan, but here someone said something nice about the Satan, so he came and kissed his feet. Yeah. Yeah. You have the other religions look at the Satan like there's God, and then there's the Satan, and they fight against each other. Yeah. And the Satan by us is just an angel. There's no independence there. Yeah, just a messenger. So b'chol zayis leichata Eve b'svasav. Nevertheless, Eve did not sin with his mouth, with his lips. Amar Rava b'svasav leichata b'li b'chata. He didn't sin with his mouth, but in his heart he sinned. That one. What happened with Kara? Okay. I don't know if his intentions in the pshat, his intentions were not good, right? That's not in the pshat. That's like according to Jewish or something. Maybe that's the same. Okay. My kamar. What is the meaning of this? Eretz nasan bi'ad Rasha. My kamar. What's the meaning of the following verse? What did he say? What did he say? What did he say that says that he sinned in his heart? Eretz nasan bi'ad Rasha. That he says that God has given over the earth to the hands of the wicked. He covers the face of its judgment. If not, then who is it? So it looks like he's saying that what's happening to me is not done by God. God has given it over. However, Amar Rava says, no, that Eve was saying that God is the wicked one, that he's given over the land into the hands of the wicked one. He's actually saying that God is wicked. Amalei Abaya says, Loi. That's not what Eve meant when he says who is doing this. He's given over the hands and he's given over the hands of the wicked. He's saying that he gave it over to the Satan. Satan is the wicked one, not Hashem. Kitanoi. This, I'm sorry.
Hashem was like, "Oh, do whatever you want with him, except."
Right. Both approaches could work, but Kitanoi. This follows an earlier discussion that's of Tanoim that says Eretz Nasa B'Yad Rasha. This is actually discussed where Rabbi Eliezer Reimer Bikishev Lakav Karol Lapich Karol Pia. There's an expression there. He turns the plate over on its mouth, which means that he's rejecting Hashem. Turn the plate over, yeah. How do they comment? Do they explain that in their notes? How this means that he's
Eve would have been Jewish. Would have not been able to.
No, then we wouldn't have had, right. Then we wouldn't have, unless Avram, it still could be that Eve was Jewish, and this would all apply, because the protection that the Jewish people have is that they're descendants of Avram. And so just because there's one individual Jew, but that doesn't mean that Hashem would always remember all the Jewish people. Maybe, all the Jewish people are all descendants. How do they explain over there this expression?
In short, to overthrow every vestige of respect for God. That's Rashi, first one. Overthrow every vestige.
So to turn the plate upside down, they don't have to, he denied the mastery of God, believing that the world was controlled by forces of evil. 21. This represents only what Job thought. The words he actually spoke are not to be understood in this blasphemous sense. For as taught above, Job sinned only in his heart, not with his lips. The spoken words are a denunciation of Satan. So that has to be clarified here. This comes out is that what it sounds like is that Rava's pshat is what Eve is thinking. Nabaya's pshat is what Eve is saying. That's what comes out. So he's saying one is sort of like he's making a pun. He's giving two meanings to the same words, according to this. Because it can't be, according to Rava, if he spoke that, then Rava said that he didn't sin with his mouth. He only thought. So Rava's pshat can't be what he said. Yeah, that's what's going to come out. And that he is referring to the Satan, which is the literal, which Rava knew, right? Because Rava was saying that he was only thinking the other pshat. Because Abai is saying that that's what he was thinking as well, right? And Rava was saying I know that that's what he said, but what he was thinking was something else. I guess that's how you'll have to read this. Amalei Rabbi Yeshua says to Rabbi Eliezer that said the way Rava said it. And he says, "Lady Bir Keneged Satan." He says the way Abaya said it, that Eve was referring to the Satan. Al Daitcha Ki Layersha Ben Miyad Chamatzel. Do you think that I won't sin? And no one is saved from your hands. Omar Rava explains this verse. Bikish Yev lifters Kalalim Kulam Adin. that what Eve was doing here is he's protecting the whole world. He's exempting the whole world from judgment. Amar Lefanav, he says to God, Rebbeinu Shalom, Barasa Shar, you created an ox, process of sedukais. Its calves, it's hoofs are separated. Barasa Chamar, you created a donkey, process of kalutes. Its hoofs are closed, are webbed. Brasa Gan Eden, Brasa Gehenim. You created the Gan Eden, you created the Gehenim, Brasa Tzadikim, Brasa Rishayim. You created the Tzadikim and you created the wicked. Mi Makav Al Yadcha, who's stopping you? Basically means that he's saying that just like there's a kosher animal and a non-kosher animal, and they don't have a choice about that, so too there's righteous people and there's wicked people, and they don't have a choice about that. That's the way they were made, that's their genetics, that's their right? Eve here is denying free choice. Says there's no free choice. Everything is already predetermined. That's why there's a question in Tanya when he quotes this. Tanya quotes this, that what it says in Baba Basra, right? It says that Eve says Brasa Tzadikim, Brasa Rishayim. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. In Tanya, it quotes the Gemara Nida that says that the angel says if the person's going to be strong or weak or this or that, all the things, but it doesn't say if he's going to be a tzaddik or a rasha. And then, I wonder if there's a Tanya here. Tanya somewhere? No, it's hard to find the Tanya in Alabavich's show. Have a chitas in there? It's okay. Don't worry about it. Okay. Oh, here Eve does say that you created the righteous, you created the wicked, which means that there's no free choice. And with this, he's going to exempt everyone from judgment because it's not their fault. I think today they with these serial killers and things like that, they think that that with brain scans they can see it in the some damage that's not which would mean that they don't have exactly the same free choice like other more challenges. That's what they think.
All of them, they go through the process and then they say if they're crazy, like slums.
Oh, I'm not talking about if they're supposed to be locked up or not. I'm
No,
not.
but I'm saying, like they all go through the same process.
I'm just saying if they
put on
in
this
their
craziness.
internal free choice, what type of choices they had, what punishment they're supposed to get doesn't affect that. If they're supposed to be on the street or not. I'm not discussing with that. I'm just saying, like if they had. You have the volume on. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. So yeah, exactly.
People could just say, "Oh, I was made this way," and not try to improve.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he quotes this. He says, and also we have to understand what Iyov said. Rebbeinu Shalom, Brasa Tzadikim, Brasa Rishayim. You created righteous men, you created wicked men. However, the Gemara Nida doesn't say that Hashem created righteous and wicked. So how do we reconcile what it says here, he created righteous and wicked, with what it says in the Gemara Nida? So remember the answer? How does Tanya explains it? No, he doesn't answer it right here. He answers it in chapter 13. You have to wait.
What happens with the process of the universe? That everything is in the hands of Hashem except.
Right. Goes into the same discussion. So he answers in chapter 13 that there's a soul of a tzaddik that's totally different than the soul of a Beinani. It's a different soul. So you created the way he explains Eve's statement is that you created the tzaddik that doesn't have any inclination for evil, and you have created a soul of a Beinoni, which is the same soul as the Rasha, wicked, which has inclination for evil. Just the question is, do they practice it or not? It's not that the one that struggles and the wicked person have different souls. It's the tzaddik and the Beinoni, tzaddik versus the Beinoni and the Rasha that have different souls. Yes, so where you put the line is a little different. That's how.
Same way, could be said that I don't hold by this, but the same way that the Sada have the special soul that doesn't have the inclination towards not so good, it could be one that has no inclination towards good.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
That's the
tzaddik virali. I'm sorry, the Rasha virali would have no inclination, probably for yeah, he never has no regrets. Okay. So Eve wants to protect everyone from judgment. My Ajale Chavri Eve, what did the friends of Eve respond? Afata Tafar Yira V'Tigra Sichel Ifneikel. You also what is it, Tafar? You diminish, you weaken or diminish fear, and you diminish prayer in front of God.
Oh, mitigate is the first one.
Okay. Mitigates fear and diminish fear in front of God. Baruch Kadosh Baruch Hu Yetzirah. It's not so, because Hashem created the Yetzirah, granted. But Baruch Torah Taflin, but He created the Torah which weakens the Yetzirah. Taflin is a spice, that an antidote, and an antidote that could weaken the Yetzirah. So Darash Rava taught, Ma'idksiv Birchas Oived Alai Tavai, the blessing of the one that loses should come on me. Believe Almana Arnan, in the heart of the widow I will make sing. What is this talking about? Birchas Oived Alai Tavai, blessing of the loser should come on me. Malamed Geisel Sadei Mi Yasaimim Mashpicha Machzirlem. Eve would steal fields from orphans. He would improve it, and then he would return it to them. Now, this is a halachic problem with doing this. So the commentators discuss how you can't steal even if you're improving it, and then he would give it back. But this is his way of doing kindness. But there's halachic issues with this. Don't try this at home. Believe almana arnan, and the heart of the widows he gladdens them. The kol hechadavi almana leavi naspila. Anywhere where there was a widow that wasn't able to find a shidduch, aviyosel shadishmei of ilava. He would put his name on her, and then and then people would want to marry her. Now, what does it mean? He would put his name on her. He would tell everyone that this is his relative. He was like a very important person. And saying, I'm sorry. Eve was, yeah. She says, "You good yichas." This is, when he would say, present the shidduch to someone who would say, "You want to marry my niece," or something like that. Right. It means it would help her find the shidduch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're not supposed to do either of those?
No, it doesn't say you're not supposed to. It says from here. It looks like you are supposed to. This looks like a praise.
Steal a field.
Only there's a halachic problem with taking things without permission, even if you're going to improve it.
So you do it or you don't.
You don't. You don't do it. It's possible that for a non-Jew it's different. A non-Jew maybe is allowed to. This would be a little odd, because usually the laws of the 7 laws are stricter for the non-Jews than they're not like that. I don't think so. I think do not steal is do not steal. Yeah. Okay. It says Lu Shakal Yishkal Kasi Havasi B'Maznaim Yisuyachad. You will weigh my anger and my calamities. You'll weigh together. So Amar Rav says Afra Lepumidiyev. They should put dirt in Eve's mouth. Kavrusa Klapishmaya. Who is he? Who does he think he is? He thinks he's like a friend of Hashem that's saying, let's see who did worse, what you did to me or what I did to you. If there was someone that could, what's it called? Arbitrate. Yashis Yadi al Snina put his hands on both of us to like the judge who's right and who's wrong, who's worse or who's being fair. Amar Rav says again. You should put dirt in Eve's mouth. What is he telling Hashem? Does a servant rebuke his master? He said that I made a covenant with my eyes. I won't look at the girls. Amarava, dirt into Eve's mouth. Eve thinks he's so great. He says he won't look at other women. Avram, he didn't even look at his own wife. Avram, it says in the pasuk, now I know that you're beautiful. That's when he was on his way to Egypt, and he hid Sarah. It says that means originally he didn't recognize her beauty. He didn't look at her. How was he able to get married? The Gemara says you have to see her before you. Kasha.
So hine na means right now.
Yeah, hine na could mean now, and it can also mean please. So when they're learning it that now, na as in the English word now.
We had this that they had to meet.
Right. So how did Avram fulfill that Gemara? What do you say? Okay.
He didn't wear glasses.
Right.
She's a little fussy.
How did he see her now?
Well, maybe
Right. He was rested, or he had right vitamins or something.
maybe he saw that.
Yeah.
One second. Tell me that again. They say that one.
The expression.
Oh, the Bach takes it out. Okay. Yeah, on this last thing, he takes out the Bach, deletes the words Afrolapomidia.
Indicates that he was not as great as.
Right.
Is that a common thing about stuffing your mouth with dirt? Is that a common?
No, it's not a common expression. Well, we do have it in other places, but okay. Now he says, Kala Anan Vayelach, the cloud goes away. Kinyer Shaol Layala. So too, someone that goes down into Gehenna doesn't come back up. Amar Rava says, Eve denied Tchias HaMesim. He says that people that go down don't come back up. Asher Besara Yeshufeni Harbe V'Harbe Pitzichinam. That with a Sarah as a storm wind. Yeshufeni crushed me, and he punished, he increased my bruises for nothing. Amarava Iev Besara Cheref Besara Shivu. He uses a storm wind to criticize Hashem, and he's responded also with the storm wind. Besara Cheref Tikseva Asher Besufeni. That with the storm wind you crushed me. He says to Hashem, Hashem Beruach Sarah V'Lefenecha. Maybe there was a big wind that went before you, and it confused you. Maybe you wanted to punish the enemy, which means Ayev, and instead there was, because of the wind, you ended up saying Eyev. Maybe it was like a typist, there was a little error, and that's what's going on. You got the wrong person. So, Basara Shivu, the storm wind, Hashem responded to him. The Ksiv, Bayan Hashem Asiyev, Hashem responds to him. Minasara, from the storm wind. Bayoimer, and he says to him, put on your belt like a strong person. I'm going to demand from you, and you're going to answer me. Amalai, he says to him, Harbi Niman Brasibadam. See, now what he's doing is, Sa'ara over here is spelled with a Sama. But now we're changing it to Sarah, as in the sin, as in here. He's responding to him with here. It's the same Hebrew word, but it's a play on words. I've created many hairs on a person. And every hair has its own hole, its own follicle. There's There's no two hairs that get nourished from the same follicle. If two hairs would come from the same follicle, it would blind a person. Person would go blind if his hair is. Yeah, I don't know is the doctor on? Yeah, doctor, you're gonna have to explain that. Okay. Yeah, homework. Yeah, homework.
No idea. No idea.
And teach this in medical school.
Stands on.
Yeah. Okay. Bein gumel gumel ein eschalafli. And if I don't get mixed up between one follicle to another follicle, bein Eev la Oyev neschalafli. What do you think? I confused Eev with Oyev, with the enemy.
It doesn't have typos.
Mi palag l'shetif tala. Who divides the channels to the flow? The flow divides the flow into the channels. Harbi tipin brasibav, and I created many droplets in the clouds. Chol tipa tipa brasila defus b'fnei, and each droplet has its own mold. Not mold as in mold, like smelling mold. It has its own mold. That it's a own form. Its own form. I don't have. You don't have two droplets that are coming from the same mold, same form. If the two droplets of rain would meet in the sky, would come from the same mold. It would how do they say that? It would destroy. It would what? It would make the earth into clay. Ve'ena might see pears, and it won't be able to give forth fruit. If I don't get confused between two droplets, you think I got confused between Eev and Oyev? My mashma, the high tal listened fusu. How do you know that when it says tala that there's a form that there's a channel, that it means over here it says who divides the flow from the channel? How do you know that it means that this tala means a channel? Amarabba Barshila, the Ksiv Vayas Talak Besasayim Zera, quotes the verse that's used when Elio is having the showdown with the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. There it says that they dug channels around it. It says Tala, so that's the channel. Trenches, right? Listener, okay. Derech lachaziz kailas. The path for lightning, chaziz is lightning, and kailas is thunder. The verses of Eev are very difficult. The Hebrews is a very difficult Hebrew. Harbi kailas brasi bavim. I made a lot of sounds, a lot of noises in the clouds. Brasi kol v'kol. I'm sorry. V'chol kol v'kol brasi leishvil b'fnei atzmai. And every sound has its own path. Shouldn't have two thunders coming from the same path. So if there would be two thunders from the same path, it would destroy the whole world. If the two thunders don't get confused, then I'm going to confuse Eev and Oyev. Hayadat es leidas yali sela. Do you know the time when the yal is a gazelle? How they translate? Mountain goat. When the mountain goat gives birth, chayla layalis tishmar. When the ayal is the how do they translate an ayal? That's the gazelle. When the gazelle begin to give birth, chayla layalis is to calf is the English, but it means that they're ready to give birth. Yalazu, this mountain goat, achzaris albana, it's very cruel to its children. Shosha kiras leledes, when it's ready it crouches to give birth. Goes up to the top of the mountain. It wants to give birth. It wants its child to drop and die. And I prepare for it the eagle, that catches the child, the offspring of this mountain goat in its wings. And it gives it back. So it catches it from the bottom and brings it back up. So Mali Makdim Rega Echad and Mesacher Rega Echad Miad Nes. If this would be a moment earlier, a moment later, the animal would die. In regular and Eschalafli, if I don't get confused in that moment. So Beniyev Loyev and Eschalafli, you think I'm going to get confused between Eyev and Oyev, Eyev or the enemy? Feilayalas Tishmar, you guard the time when the gazelle's calf. Ayola Zu Rachmatzar. The womb of the calf is very narrow. Shoshakras ledas, so it's not able to give birth. So at the time that it's giving birth, Sani Masmala Darkain, I prepared for it a darkain, it's like a dragon, a snake. Shemakisha bebesarechem, that it bites her on the womb. Umisrapa mimolda mimaleda, and it softens the area where she's given birth from. Bilmali maktim regach and mach regach and miad mesa. And if it would come a moment earlier, a moment later would die. Yeah, this is what's the shot that they give the women so they shouldn't feel the pain? Epidural. It's like the snake comes epidural. It's an epidural. That's so they don't feel the pain. That's just like a whatever. This is that it opens the womb. It's not an epidural. This is something else. So ben regular neschalafli ben Eev leiv neschalafli. If I don't get confused with that moment, I think I get confused between Eev and Oyev. Eev leiv bedasi daber dvarf leiv bahaskel. Eev was speaking without intention and without intellect. What's that mean? Rava says, you can't hold a person accountable for things that he says when he's suffering. So even though this suffering, the suffering isn't coming as a punishment. Suffering is coming as a test. But what he says when he's being tested, when he's suffering, you can't hold him accountable.
Same way we don't hold the women. They still bring the
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a drush because the first baby, obviously, they wouldn't. Why would they have to bring him for that? So that's a drush. But Yishmo Shleishes Rei Iyav Eskolara Zay Sabalav Yava Yishmo Kaimei Alifa Zatimani Baldad Hashuchi B'Tzeifer and Amasi Vayivada Yachtav Lavai Lanad Leilanachmei. Okay, so the three friends of Iyav hear what's happening to Iyav, and they come. Each person comes from his place. The names are Eliphaz, Hatimani, Baldad, Hashuchi, and Seifar, and Amasi, and they gather together and they come to mourn with him and to comfort him. What does it mean that they made up? It sounds like they made up like a meeting. They set an appointment. Amrav Yud Amarav, that means that they all came through the same gate. A note going to something here, and I can't find what it's going to. Vitana, and it was taught in a brayso ben kolechad vechad shalosh meis parsi, that between each one there was 300 parsos. That's a large area. Minav yadi, and how do we know? How did they know that they should come? How did they know? What was it? They got a telegram. How did they know what happened to Yiv? So ikadamri, there are those that say klila havalu, that they had a crown, and on the crown there was the pictures of each of their faces, and with their name, and if any suffering would come onto any of them, so the features of the face would change, and they were able to tell what's going on. Yeah, it was Facebook. Facebook. Okay.
This is a real AI.
Yeah. Ikadamri, those that say Ilani Havalu, given the Kamshi Havayadi, they planted trees for each one, and when it would wither, they would know that something bad is happening to the other one. Rava says, this is what people say. Either I have friends like the friends of Eve, or I rather die. That's what people say. That's a Gemara somewhere else. Well, kindness. That means people are social creatures. And friends are very important. Vayihi ki hachal adam l'roiv al pnei adama. Ubanos yoda lehem. We switched topics. We're going back to real friends, right? They say the guy at the of this picture of this guy standing by an open grave. Just one guy there, no one else is there. And someone's saying something like, but he had 3,000 friends on Facebook. Okay.
The other one that was wrong.
So now we're going back to when at the beginning, after before the flood, it says when people began to multiply on the face of the earth and they had daughters. Rabbi Yechon Amar Ravia Bal Olam. Rashi explains over here that when someone has a daughter, so that means that the world will proliferate, propagate. So propagate. So because the girls get married younger and they can have children younger, so the girl would be quicker to have children than if there's a boy. You'd have to wait longer. So what happens according to Rabbi Yochanan is when it says when man began laroiv, what does that mean? Revia. That means they were having a lot of children. That word laroiv doesn't mean to propagate. What it means is that there was arguments came into the world. Meriva means arguments, fighting. Why? Because the men would fight over the women, who gets this one to marry. So Amalei Rish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. Lakish says to Rabbi Yochanan, according to you, that you say that having girls is something good because they'll have children and they'll propagate the world. It says afterwards. It says after all of Eve's suffering, he gets everything back and he has more sons and he has daughters, but it doesn't say that he has double the amount of daughters. It only says that he has the same amount of daughters. If having daughters is a good thing, see, according to Rish Lakish, having daughters is a bad thing. It increases fights in the world. But if it's having daughters is a good thing, according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's why didn't he have double the amount of daughters afterwards? It says that he got everything. Amalai. So he said back, he said, they increased their beauty, even though they doubled their beauty, even though they didn't double the amount. They had 7 sons and 3 daughters. The names of the daughters were Yemima, Ketzia, and Karen Hafach. Karen Hafach sounds like an upside down horn. Yemima, why she called Yemima? She was as beautiful as the day, shining like the sun. Ketzia, I'm sorry?
About the 7 sons?
Yeah.
It says 14. Double 7.
Double 7. How do you get that, though?
It says that. It's twice 7.
Uh-huh.
Gershon, Rashi. There's 14 sons and 2 daughters.
Right.
And then what he says is like the word means twice. So
Uh-huh.
that's what the word is distribution.
Uh-huh. Shiva Anna means twice 7. That's saying, okay. Probably the only place where you have that word, so you have to decide what that word means. The way we know what words mean is because we have them in other places. But that's how. This is probably what's the word for that? When there's a word that's only once in all of the. Remember, there was like a Latin word for that. I don't remember it. There's words of Naphtali in Latin. For if there's a word that's only once in the whole Tanakh. There's a word for that.
Not a Hebrew word.
Not a Hebrew word, a Latin word. Yeah. Okay. So she's called Yemima because she's similar to the sun, to the day. Ketzia. She's called Ketzia. Her scent was so beautiful. She was like maybe Ketzia, maybe cinnamon or something else. Karen, how does our scroll say? Cassia. What's Cassia? Didn't know.
One of the fragrant herbs that comprises.
Let's see.
Offered in some.
Okay, how does the Yeah, Mar Uktzia number 6 is cassia. Yeah, they don't have. They also say cassia. Oh, so cinnamon would be kinamine, would be cinnamon. So this wouldn't be cinnamon. Okay.
I don't know what Cassie is.
I don't know. Apparently, it has a good smell. Karn hafach, this upside down horn. Amri de Beir of Shila Shadaim Karna de Karash. It's similar to this horn of this animal called karash, and has like a black horn. Well, maybe it's a unicorn. They try to make unicorns look beautiful. Right? They dress them up with whenever they do those pictures, they put like some ribbons on it. So they laughed about this in Eretz Yisrael. Kana de Kars Lakusahi. That sounds like a curse. That doesn't sound like something positive. Elamar Rav Chizda says, the Rishka Bemina. It's talking about saffron. That's saffron of the Rishka, of the garden, that grows in the garden. That's the best of its kind. That's how beautiful she was. Shnemar Tikri Bapuch, as it says, enlarge the eye with paint. Somehow that's associated with this. I'm not sure how. Bapuch is a paint for the eye. Then what does that have to do with the verse? But as the verse says,
The best cosmetic.
it's using the word puch as Karen hapuch. Oh, okay. Thank you. Reb Shimon Rebbe Yisrael brata. Reb Shimon Rebbe's son gave birth to a daughter. He had a daughter. His wife gave birth to a daughter. Havi kachalash daite. He felt very bad. Sounds like a Sephardic. Amalei Avua. The father tells him, "Revia b'loilam. What are you worried about? There's going to be a lot of children in the world." Amalei bar kapara. So bar kapara tells him, "And chumashal hevel nicham chavach. Your father gave you a fake consolation." Naftali, you wanted to share something?
Pax legomena is Greek for a word that appears only once in Tanakh.
Oh, Greek. So how do you pronounce that again?
I'll spell it better. HAPAX space LEGOMENA.
Oh, that's the hopas, lagamena. Yeah. Lagamena. Is that the word? Lagamena. Hopax, lagamena. Yeah. So in the dictionaries, when you use those fancy dictionaries, they have a special symbol for words that are only once in the whole Tanakh. You see, sometimes they have like a weird symbol, and that means that's hopax, lagamena. We don't have it in the regular dictionaries, but then you use those fancy academic dictionaries. Okay. Thank you. So he tells him, your father gave you a fake consolation. The Tanya, as it was taught in the Brisa, it says, the world needs male and females. But happy is the one that his sons are male. And woe is to the person that his children are females. The world needs spices, and it also needs tanners to work the hide to make leather. Lowest happy is the one that has his job is a spice merchant, perfume, and woe is to the person that his work is as a tanner. Umar says kitanai. This discussion really goes back to a machlekes that was earlier. Hashem berach Avram bakal. It says that Hashem blessed Avram with everything, bakal, everything. My bakal, what does it mean, everything? The general statement. What does it mean? What's it referring to? Rameir said that he didn't have a daughter. That's Hashem blessed him by not giving him a daughter. Rabbi Yehuda says the opposite. Bas. He blessed him with the daughter. That's the blessing. Others say, there's a problem over here because Reb Meir is usually Achirim. At least Reb Meir in the Mishnah is Achirim. So Reb Meir's opinion is that he didn't have a daughter. Achirim say that he had a daughter and her name was Bakal. That was her name. Hashem blessed Avram with Bakal. Bakal is the name of his daughter.
This is just something that we see here in the Ara, not necessarily Midrash.
So, oh, you mean this comes from the Medrash as well.
Oh,
The Medrash. The only problem is that the name Achirim can't be in the same brisa with Reb Meir. So I have on the side this note from a Sefer Livnas HaSaper from Reb David ben Reb Yehuda HaChassid. He says that this Achirim is not Reb Meir. Okay. Then it goes on. He says that in Hirius, Reb Meir was only called Achirim after his conflict with Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. When they got rid of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Reb Meir and Reb Nassan, so then Reb Meir is now called Achirim because they didn't want to say his name because of what he did to Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. And then Reb Nassan was called Yeshaimrim. But here we're saying like this. We say originally, this is the way this Sefer wants to put it. Originally, Reb Meir said that what was the blessing? That he didn't have a daughter. Then after he gets kicked out, not kicked out, he was kicked out, let back, whatever, but they didn't use his name. Then later on, he switched. And now his nupshat is, Reb Meir himself has a nupshat. He's called Achirim now, right? He's older. Now he has a nupshat. And his pshat is that he's called, that Avram's daughter's name was Bakal. Rabbi Lezer Medoya, Lezer Medoya is not so common in Shas. It's Tagninas Isa Belibe Shel Avram Avinu Shkol Malchi Mizrach Amayev Mashkim Lepischi. You know what he was blessed with? He was blessed with that he was a astrologer, that he was able to tell everyone what they needed, and all the kings from the east and the west would come to visit him. Probably charged a little fee. Rav Shimon ben Yochai says, that he had a stone that was hanging from his neck. Anyone, any sick person that looked at it would get healed right away. And when Avraham Avinu passed away, Hashem put it into the sun, and the sun is healing. It must have been vitamin D stone. Okay. Amar Abaya says, that's what people say. Idli Yaim Idli Katsira. That as the day goes on, as the day progresses, then the sickness is lifted. Davar Acher, there's another pshat. What does it mean that Hashem was blessed, that Avram was blessed with everything? It says, Shleimar Desav B'Yom, let me skip the line. That Esav did not rebel during Avram's lifetime. That was he blessed with, that he was able to have Hasidish and Achas. They didn't have Esav rebelling while Avram was alive. That's why Avram passed away 5 years earlier. That Esav. Davar Acher, another pshat. Sha'asi Yishmael Tshuva B'Yamav. That Yishmael did Tshuva. That's what Avram was blessed with. Okay. Is that called? Is that the name for that?
It's a follicle. It's inflamed. I have no idea what that was for.
Okay. But you're okay with the sun, with Avram stone being vitamin D stone? Okay. Okay.
It causes lack of vitamin D.
Yeah, the immune system and everything. That's important. Okay.
Although I'm not sure that people who live in that part of the world had a lot of sun exposure have any problem with the need for vitamin D.
Right.
And people like in Florida, you really don't need it.
Right.
Unless you're people in nursing homes who don't go out.
Right.
But whatever.
You see the guys, they're not always covered up.
Devices.
So the Baracha Shasi Yishmael Tshuva B'Yom of Shleimard Okay, now we go back to explain. Shleimar Esav b'yamav minala. How do we know that Esav did not rebel while Avram was alive? Ksiv, because it says in the pasuk, that Esav came home from the field and he was tired. Who did he come to? He came to Yaakov. He asked him for some soup, and Yaakov gave him soup, but for a price. He had to give him the rights to the firstborn. The Tana Isya Yoim, that day, Niftar Avram Avinu had passed away. Vasi Yaakov Avinu Tafshel Shaladashim Lenachim Yitzchak Aviv, and Yaakov went to cook some lentils to console Yitzchak his father. Maishna Shaladashim. Why did he cook lentils for the mourner for the meal? It was said in the West, in the name of Rabbi Bar Mari, just like the lentils don't have any mouth, they have no opening. Also, the mourner doesn't have any mouth, he has nothing to say, he just sits quietly. Also, usually you call this usually it's described slightly different. But this is the cycle of life. But it goes, people pass away, that travels around from one person to another. Usually it's put that there's good times and bad times. And that's like usually it's put over here. It looks like it's going from person to person. Whatever the case is, it's something that rolls around. So that's why they use lentils to represent them. My binai, what's the difference between these two interpretations if it doesn't have a mouth or if it rolls? Well, could you also make the consolation meal with eggs? Eggs don't have a mouth. There's no opening to the egg. But it's also not round. Right? Doesn't roll that way. Spin it this way. Okay. Huh? It's oval.
We give mourners lentils, right?
I think so.
Picking up leaves. The whole morning to the
Amar Rabbi Yechanan. You know, they say when you go to a Shalom Zachar, that's the baby is mourning because he forgot the Torah, and so they serve these chickpeas, the arbus, because that's like those lentils, they're round. So my pshat is they also serve beer. Where's the beer from? Because in the beer they have these bubbles. That's my pshat. Okay. That was probably the cheap drink. Okay. So ik ben eigenlijk goed bij. Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan says that Esav committed 5 sins on that day. Baal Nara Marasa. He lived with a girl that was betrothed. Baharagas Nefesh, and he killed someone. The Kafir Biker, he denies Hashem. Kafir B'tchias Mesim, and he denies the resurrection of the dead. And Vishat Esa B'chayra, and he shames the birthright. Baal Nara Marasa. How do we know that he lived with? I'm sorry. Oh yeah. Yeah. So, how do we know that he lived with the girl that was betrothed? Says that Esav came from the field. That was found in the field. It's the girl that was raped. Killed the soul. It says over here, ayif, which means tired or exhausted. Over there it says, woe is to me that my soul is tired from the slayers. Kafir Biker, it's the same word is used when it comes to murder. Kafir Biker, he denies Hashem. Says over here, why do I need this? What do I need the birthright? Uses that expression of Zeh. And it says, this is my God. So that same that we're using from the term Zeh, teach me that he's denying God. Lama Zeli, what do I need this? What do I need God? He denies the resurrection of the dead. It says, he says, I'm going to die. And he doesn't mention that, okay, maybe he's going to die, but when he comes back, it's going to be significant. He doesn't have that. He's not coming back. He doesn't believe in that. He shames the firstborn because it says that Esav shamed the birthright. How do we know that Yishmael did tshuva during the days of Avram? It says, Kiha the Ravina Rav Chama Barbuzi Aviyasvi Kamei the Rava. You have these students that are sitting in front of Rava, Ravina and Rav Chama Barbuzi. The Kamanam Rava, Rava is falling asleep. Rava's teacher is falling asleep. Amalei Ravina le Rav Chama Barbuzi. Ravina said to Rav Chama Barbuzi, Vade dam risu kol misu sheish b'gavia zumisasin shal tzadikim. You know, of course, or it's clear what it said, that if it says in the Torah the term gavia, which means passing away, so if it uses that term, obviously the person was a tzaddik. That's the tzaddik passes away. Amalayin, he says, yeah, that's true. It says v'hadar mabel when it speaks about the generation of the flood, and over there it uses the term gavia. It says Amalayanan gavia v'asifa kamrinan. I'm referring to gavia and asif. It has to use two terms, a double expression. Be gathered back to his people, together with gavia. That's when it's going to be a tzaddik. It says about Yishmael the ksiv gavia v'asifa. But by Yishmael, when the verse talks about when he died, it says gavia v'asifa.
What about one says Bayom? That's double, but it's not us.
Where does it say v'yiv?
Isn't that Vayosef El Amo?
Yeah, if it says v'yosef alamo, then it's a
Also, it's
tzaddik.
Vayosef
That it's the v'yivva and v'yosef that makes it.
okay.
That says it's a tzaddik. So by Yishmael it says v'yivva v'yosef. It says ad hachi yatar bei Rava. So Rava wakes up during this conversation. Amalahu dardaki. It says children. Achi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, Yishmael asat tshuva b'chai yaviv. Yishmael did tshuva, so he's a tzaddik. Remember, Bikbrei Yitzchak Yishmael banav. That who buried Avram? It says Yitzchak and Yishmael. Now Yishmael is older than Yitzchak, but Yishmael allows Yitzchak to go first because he did tshuva and he recognizes that Yitzchak is the main child. Let's see, Yishmael's sin was that he was at least at the beginning, he was saying that he's going to kill Yitzchak and he's going to inherit and all of that. Now he was letting Yitzchak go first. Yitzchak is the main inheritor of Avram.
Is that before or after his mother?
It has to be after, because Avram married the mother. Now Avram's dying. How do you know that that's really what happened? Maybe the Torah is telling me the story, and it's changing it a little bit different in the list of people. It doesn't say that. It doesn't mean that Yishmael let Yitzchak go first. It's just saying Yitzchak Yishmael. That's the Torah, the author. The Torah is being written. The house is being written with the way that the wiser one is getting listed first. It's just a list, right? So the Gemara says, if that's the case, so why, when Yitzchak passes away, does it say Esav and Yaakov buried him? It doesn't say Yaakov. If the Torah likes to list the wise one first, so why doesn't it say Yaakov and Esav? It must be the fact that it was first. Adburi, that he allowed him to go first. He let him to go first. It must be that Yishmael did tshuva. Okay. You remember that Dvar Torah says Rabbi Shmuel Eimer saying davening. Rabbi Shmuel said, so they asked Rabbi Yomi to speak or something. It was a kid, so he says he has I have three questions on this. First of all, why does it say Rabbi Shmuel Eimer? Does it say Amar Rabbi Shmuel? Always it says whenever no one's arguing, it says Amar Rabbi Shmuel Eimer means that Shmuel Eimer, Rabbi Shmuel says differently than someone else. Also, how do you get the name Yishmael? Why would he say that? Also, if there's no, if in the Torah you don't have, there's no chronological order, so why does it say prat to klal, klal to prat? There's a difference between if it's the general is first or the specific is first. There's no chronological order to the Torah. So he says, I can answer this all with one answer. It says when Yishmael is buried, it says that they buried Yitzchak b'Yishmael. Now, if there's no chronological order to the Torah, so how do you learn that Yishmael did tshuva from this? It must be that that according to this opinion, the Torah is in chronological order. The Torah is in chronological order, then then that's how you have this drasha, and that's why you're going to say that Rabbi Shmuel Omer, not Omer Rabbi Shmuel, because there's another opinion. Another opinion has the Torah in chronological order. Anyway, that's the okay.
Wait, what about the one says road?
Rabbi Shmuel, how do you get the name? Oh, because it says whenever there's an argument, because there's an argument there. There's one opinion that says that there's not in chronological order.
Because of that argument.
So what's happening now is, how did Rabbi Shmuel get the name Rabbi Shmuel? Because Yishmael did tshuva, and he's arguing with the opinion that says that the klal of prat, I don't know, it doesn't fit perfectly. Okay, let's see. Taner Rabbanan, start in the Brayso. Shleisha etiman hakadosh baruch hu ba'olam hazeh mien olam haba. That there were three people that Hashem gave them to taste in this world, a taste of the world to come. Who are these three people? Elohein, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Avram, the Ksiv Bei Bakal, says Hashem blessed Avram with everything. So use the word Bakal, and that means that they had everything, like even a taste of the world to come.
Can we just say
The Tosfos asks, what about Eiv? And it doesn't use the word Bakal there. Okay. They had more. Eiv just had like one detail. Avram, the Ksiv Bei Bakal, Yitzchak, the Ksiv Bei Mikal, and Yaakov, the Ksiv Bei Kal. It says by Yitzchak, it says, Mikal, he would eat from all the food, and by Yaakov, it says, Kal, right? He says he has everything. There's three people that the Yitzhar doesn't rule over them. Elohein, these are Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Okay. The Ksiv Behu, Bakal, Mikal, Kal, it says that they had everything. Yeshayim David, some say David as well. The Ksiv Li Bechol Bekirbi, that says my heart is vacant inside of me. He was missing his Yitzhara. In the other one, Tsari, the Midka, what he really meant to say, not that he didn't have a Yitzhara, but we're talking about that he was just suffering. Because of all his suffering, his heart has died. Six people, the angel of death didn't rule over them. Elohein, they are.
Excuse me, I thought that the Taichan that was the Yitzhara was
That's one shot. That's one shot. Other shot is that it said that there's only three people that didn't have Yitzhara, not four. So then that would mean that he was suffering.
Commentary mentions that it's not that they didn't have Yitzhara. They did have Yitzhara, but since they overcame, in order to have reward, they had Yitzhara, but they overcame it, and then Hashem helped them.
Who are they quoting there? Yeah. So Tosfos says, Hillel's pointing out from the notes, Tosfos says, not that they didn't have a Yitzhar at all. Obviously they had, or else they wouldn't be able to get a reward. Rather, once a person, most of his life doesn't sin, then he doesn't sin. So Hashem saw that they were pushing themselves so much to distance themselves from sin. So Hashem supported them, and afterwards they didn't have Yitzhar.
Why don't you just say they were all Yitzhara,
Right.
Tavlo, and they had no Yitzhara?
Right.
They were put, and you know.
I think what it's saying is that they have potential to become a tzaddik b'tayvla. Even what Tosfos is saying is that even a tzaddik b'tayvla,
that you're born.
you're born with that potential.
No, you're born a tzaddik, you're born in Russia. Otherwise, you're a Benoni that should strive to be a tzaddik, but we can never be a tzaddik.
But how did David kill the Yitzhara? Must mean that you're born with potential.
He was a tzaddik.
So how did he kill it?
He made sure he was not going to be a tzaddik for Ralo, just a tzaddik for Tavlo. I think that's what they had.
He didn't have it. How could he kill it?
Well, he has it to kill it.
Okay. The six things the six people the Malach Mavet doesn't rule over them. Elohein, they are Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Meshach, and Miriam. Avram Yitzchak Ksivahu Bakal Mikal Kol says that they had everything. So obviously they didn't have the Malach HaMavos, didn't have control over them. Moshe and Miriam, where do we see that? It says Tiksivahu Al Pi Hashem. It says that they died by the mouth of Hashem. Okay, this is in this week's parsha. But Miriam likes it by Al Pi Hashem, but by Miriam it doesn't say by the mouth of Hashem. Rabbi Lazar says Miriam Nam Minashika Mesa. She also died by the kiss of Hashem. The Asya Sham Shami Moshe. We learn from the word Sham that it says by Moshe and it also says by Miriam. So why doesn't it actually say Al Pi Hashem? That it's improper to say that Hashem kissed a woman. So by
to say the Shechina is the feminine version. The Shechina kissed it.
Whatever. Maybe that's not how it works. Tan Rabbanan. Start in a brisa. Shiva leishalat b'amrima v'teleya. The 7 things that 7 people that the worms didn't rule over them and didn't eat their body. Elohim Avram Yitzchak Moshe Aaron Miriam and Binyamin ben Yaakov. So the 6 that we just mentioned plus Binyamin. Avram Yitzchak Yaakov Diksiv Bakal Mikal Kal. Avram Yitzchak, it says everything, right? Bakal, they had everything. Moshe Aaron Miriam Diksiv Al Pi Hashem. It says that they died by the mouth of Hashem, so it's not proper that someone that dies with the mouth of Hashem is then the maggots or worms are going to eat. Binyamin ben Yaakov. What about Binyamin ben Yaakov? It says the Ksiv. The Binyamin Amar Yedid Hashem L'Shken Levat Chalav. Regarding Binyamin, it says that beloved by Hashem, he dwells in security. So that means that he doesn't have to be concerned about the worms. Vidach, the other opinion that didn't. I'm sorry. V'yishem Rav David. Some say also David doesn't have worms. The Ksiv Afbezah Yishken Levatach says that also my flesh will dwell in security. Vidach. So why didn't the other opinions say that if it's clearly in Tillim? It says that was a request. That wasn't saying what actually happened. That was just his request.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
I shared it years ago, but I don't know if these people were here, although the professor might have been. I had a great grandmother that was murdered by the Nazis in a square, when they would do their gatherings, before the concentration camps. They would pull the Jews out, bring them into the center square, wherever, and then just murder them on the spot. So this happened, and she was known to be a tzaddikas. I mean, extremely righteous. Later on, the Polish people in that area built a pig selling place in that area to cover up where the Jews were killed because they were just mass grave put on the spot. After the war, apparently, Jews went back there to that area, got rid of the pigs, dug up everything to do individual graves. So I met this man in Texas. He was an older man. I say he's an older man. I met him like 20 years ago. Maybe he was my age. I don't know. But he was an older man, right, who had lived through the Holocaust. So he said to me, when they came back, he told me this story, and they dug up the graves, and they dug up my great-grandmother. He said it freaked him out because she looked like she was still alive. She hadn't changed a day from the last day. So I forever remember that story because they said she was a tzaddikas. That's it, a tzaddikas don't. So interesting story.
I was thinking, I've heard of many examples that the maggots don't. Not so long ago, the rabbi that took a piece of his like fat and put it to see if the maggots would eat it. It was at the end of
Rabbi Lazar Bashim. Okay, Tanur Rabbana, and it was Sudden Bryce asking a question that there's more people, more than 7. The Taisus asked this question. Quote Temel Rajba. Rajba is a different Rajba than Taisus. It's not Reb Shlomo ben Aderes. It's Reb someone ben Leo or Avram or something. It's not the Rajba, the Spanish one. He says the Kol Tzdikanami, the same thing it says about them. So Yesh Laimar that possible that they don't rot. And nevertheless, they still have worms. Because even in that story with Rabbi Shimon, he still had a worm that came out of his ear, remember? Okay. Now let's go to
That was because
something that he did.
that he heard.
Right.
It was
Right. So we don't have any example of someone that doesn't have any worms other than these 7 or 8, right? 7 or 8.
never had seen. The
Right.
other one had the one thing on
Plus
here.
my
Right.
great-grand.
Right.
Can't keep them like
No,
that.
but it says that they don't rot. The question is if there was a worm somewhere. Anyway, Taner Rabbanu was Taner Bryce Rabba Meisividim Shal Nachash. There's 4 people that died because of the bite of the snake, which means that they have no sin that would have caused their death. The only reason why they're dying is because death was decreed on humanity.
Corpse in outer space.
Really?
Just 1 second. 1 second. Okay.
Fanatics.
Sorry.
I don't even want to look.
Sorry about that. Okay, so who are these 4 people? Binyamin ben Yaakov, Amram ben Amram Avi Maisha, Yishai Avi David, Akilav ben David. Binyamin, the son of Yaakov, Amram, the father of Maisha, Yishai, the father of David, and Kilav, who's the son of David. Kulu Gemara, all of these are tradition, Labar mi Yishai Avi David, except for Yishai, the father of David, the Mefarish Bekra, that the pasuk clearly says about him, the Ksiv es Amasa, and Amasa Sam Abshalom Tachas Yoav. Avshalom made him the general in place of Yoav al Tzava, over the army. Amasa, who is Amasa? Ben Ish, he's the son of a man of Shema Yisra Yisraeli. Was the name of Yisra Yisraeli Asherba al Abigail, that lived with Abigail Bas Nachash, Bas Abigail, Bal Abigail Bas Nachash, Abigail the daughter of Nachash, Achais Truya, which is the sister of Truya. Yeah. Aim Yoav, who's the mother of Yoav. So basically, it's the brother of Yoav. And who is the mother? And the mother's name was Yoav ben Truya. Truya is the mother of Yoav and is the mother of Amasa, and is the husband of Yisra Yisraeli, who is the husband of Nachash. Who is the Nachash is the wife. The Chibas Nachashi, Alei Bas Yishai. What are we saying that the husband's name was Nachash? The husband's name was Yishai. The Ksiv Achisem Triya of Abigail. It says their sisters were Triya and Abigail. Alabas Mishames Bitav Shal Nachash. Rather, what it means is it's the son, the person that died by the bite of the snake, which is referring to the original the snake in the Garden of Eden that caused that death should come into the world. That's how Yishai died. So all of them we don't have a source for, but Yishai we have a source for because he's called Nachash. Okay, we'll continue as Hashem tomorrow with the next parak. Have a good week, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a great day.